Hey everyone, it is Sean and Dave here from Saturday Morning Cartoons. We want to thank the following people for going to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons and supporting our show. So a huge thank you to Derek Haynes,
Dr. Jason Woods,
Jamal Newman,
Melanie Harker,
Allison Keene,
the one and only Sean Paul Ellis,
and the amazing Dave Trumbore.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, it might sound kind of weird that we are thanking some familiar people and ourselves in this list, but we want to let you listeners out there know that we are not just asking you to support us through Patreon. We are actually putting our hard-earned dollars into the show as well. So we just want to say thank you to those who have supported, and for anyone who can't but would like to help out the show in some way, feel free to share our Patreon page within your social media circles. It would really help a lot.
So thank you guys. We appreciate you going to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons to sponsor and support our podcast. And now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. I got nothing. Where do we go from there?
I don't know,
I'm
man.
so not used to this.
Coming all the way from nostalgia.
Yeah, I guess from nostalgia, or like the history of the podcast itself.
Sure, we could do that.
Yeah, I'll be your co-host, Dave Trumbore. I'm like weirded out now. I don't know what's going on.
Ooh, you all right, buddy?
Yeah, I'm okay. Joining me as always, the one, the only Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, bud?
Oh, David. I'm doing well, buddy. How about
I'm
yourself?
freaking out.
Other than being real freaked out right now.
Out. So normally for 156 odd episodes, what we do is we research a show that's weird. We watch a show that's weird. And then I send out notes and we talk about a show that's weird. Tonight, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something completely different. It's going to be cool. It's going to be casual. It's going to be unscripted, even though we're usually not very scripted whatsoever. For a rough half an hour here, Sean and I are going to talk about a little bit of the history of the show and kind of how it's impacted and affected our kind of day-to-day life. And that might sound way more serious than I intended it to be. So, Sean, maybe you can tell them what we're actually going to be talking about tonight.
Sure. So one of the big things that we realized is that with all of these cartoons that we've watched at this point, close over 3 years now, what have we actually gone back to watch?
Good question.
After we've recorded an episode? What stuff do we kind of hold on to? What things do we want to go back and watch? What is that lingering nugget of a show that we've thought about and said, hey, I should really sit down and watch a lot more Ultra Force right now?
Ooh.
Why am I not doing that?
Oh,
So,
I have a lot of reasons.
I know.
I can tell you all those reasons over the next 25 minutes, or we can talk about more fun stuff if you want.
Yes, we should do fun stuff.
Go back and listen to our Ultra
this was
Force
just
episode.
Oh, God. So we just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of go back and talk about a lot of these things. If you've been listening to us and following along and going back through our back catalog and checking out a lot of these episodes, thank you, and we appreciate you guys listening. And also, if you've been listening with us from the beginning, Bobby Anthem, thank you guys as well for being here and for being so supportive. And so we just kind of wanted to recap on the things that we sort of attached onto, and also, we'd love to kind of hear the things that you guys, after listening to episodes, have gone to check out as well, because that's extremely fun for us. The fact that you may have discovered something from your childhood or something completely new and kind of hunkered down in such a binge watch focused culture that we have, you may blow through that entire series. And that's
and you
rad.
can now because the internet allows it,
can.
which is awesome. But yeah, one of the reasons we started this podcast back in the day was because we loved just talking with our friends, with each other about old cartoons. And we loved, seeing that recognition in somebody else's face. Like if I'm talking about a cartoon and then Sean's like, oh, you're talking about Dino Riders. And I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Thank you so much. It's been driving me crazy. I love seeing that expression, that realization in other people's faces. Or people will come up to us and they'll say like, I remember this show. I don't remember what title it was. It was around like mid 80s, blah, blah, blah. And they give us a brief description. And we're just like, oh, that was totally Sectors. Like, obviously.
Yeah.
And just like, what? How did you know that? I love those moments in those conversations. And we've had them here because we haven't seen everything that we've covered. I mean, now we have at this point. But when we go to research this stuff and watch these cartoons, we haven't already seen everything that we're about to talk about. So sometimes it's fun to just rediscover stuff too.
I want to point out, I had this really very fun moment very shortly after we had originally started recording the podcast where I was at a college friend's wedding that was down in the Caribbean, a destination wedding. Beautiful. We're having a blast. It's a bunch of college friends, a bunch of new friends that I had never, that I was making while we were on this trip. And we're kind of hanging out one night, and people are talking about passion projects. And I think that we were maybe 10 episodes in at that point. And somebody's like, what are you doing, Sean? And I was like, I just started this cartoon podcast.
Which is the whitest,
and they were
malest possible thing you can say. And we know we're very well aware.
It's the most like 2010 or like it's like the most 2017 thing. As I'm realizing that like more and more of our friends are starting podcasts and doing things, to suddenly just have somebody just be like, I'm doing a podcast, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's cool. But 3 years ago when this was kicking up and we were beginning everything, and I said it was about old cartoons, the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, oh man, you should do this show. And it was like, that's what I want. And like I walked away with a cocktail napkin full of suggestions, and the majority of them are shows that we've now covered at this point.
And I mean, I had the exact same story, just not in the Caribbean. I mean, down the street at a local bar. But I mean, that's the kind of thing. It's like it's those conversation starters. It's that shared experience. Even if you didn't actually, there's people who have watched shows in the 60s that they remember as kids. There's people who have watched shows in the 2000s or even the 2010s now. God, we're old. That watched them as kids. And everybody has that same shared experience of watching a cartoon as a child. Yes, the details are different, the shows are different, the timing is different, but that's kind of a shared experience that no matter what the conversation is, you can kind of at least get a foot into it from that. But tonight's conversation is going to be based on that, but it's going to look sort of forward to say, like, of the 150 odd shows that we've watched, what has called us to watch more of, other than the required episodes that I made everybody watch for that particular evening's discussion. So, Sean, I know Sean's got me beat on this one. I will go into a discussion of kind of why I haven't been able to go back and watch as many as I would like, but what's one of the first ones that comes to mind for you?
Sure. So I'll say one of the very first ones that I dug into, and this is going to be really weird because it's not so far off. It was Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Oh, that's actually a really good one because that's one that I've watched too.
When we watched it for the show, I had no exposure. I had no experience with it. It was something that I was hopeful when I watched it. And I was also very excited because, we ramp up some of these thematic months that we have in anticipation of a movie release. And I was sort of really in that Star Wars zone. And this show did not disappoint. And I believe I've watched 6 seasons. And it became almost like
they stopped. I don't remember how many they had.
Because it's weird because they have like a weird half season at the end of things that were never really aired, and some of the the animation is sort of not complete. It's not the final render.
Oh yeah,
that
that's right. It's almost like deleted or like special features on a Blu-ray or something.
Right, and so they released a bunch of them, and so it was something that it became like a morning ritual for me. Like every morning that I would wake up, I would watch one episode of Clone Wars, cool. And that went on for about 3 months.
That's like going back to your childhood too, like getting ready, eating breakfast, waiting for your lunch to be made, waiting for the bus to show up. Yeah.
And there was so much that was in that show, just from all of the Obi-Wan journeys and sort of the Ahsoka Tano that we've talked a lot about over different shows, even Rebels, I believe.
And that's one I'd really like to get into. I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah. And so, just going back and just kind of sitting down with this, that energy from the release of Star Wars kind of carried forward with me. And I watched that for like a good 3 months before I was done with it. Yeah. And at that point, it was really bittersweet because I wanted there to be more. But I also know for like the next several years, we're going to be pretty spoiled with so much Star Wars.
We got a lot.
Cinema that I was like, I have to wait a couple months. Wait a couple months and I'll be fine.
It used to be that you had to wait multiple years for any future installment of a Star Wars anything to show up, but these days slightly different. Now that's interesting because I feel like I remembered when we watched Star Wars Clone Wars. I don't know if it was your first exposure to it, but didn't we watch like the last episode of the series at the time?
We watched very close. It was the one where Ahsoka Tano like breaks. She's accused of having killed somebody,
and then she pieces out.
It's a 2-parter, and she pieces out. And so it's
that was a hell of an introduction for you.
Oh man, I loved every minute.
But that made you want to go back and watch.
There were a lot of moments.
The full story then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have this weird thing sometimes where I will actually spoil the ending of something for
Mm,
myself, not because I have this desire or need or urge, and not because I want to kind of figure out whether or not it's something that's going to be worth my time, but I'm kind of, once I know what the ending is, I really take enjoyment of kind of going back and sort of seeing all the stuff that has happened
rather
that led up
than
to
getting
it.
distracted from like what is this thing at the end. I see that. That's
Right.
interesting.
So that sometimes will happen for certain shows and certain movies. More notably, recently I watched all all the seasons of It's Always Sunny. I think from
Okay.
like season 8 all the way back to season
Yeah.
3. But I watched them in the season's order, but I watched them in reverse. So it was like I started on season 8, episode 1, and watched to the end of that
Okay.
season, and then went back to season
This is like
7, episode
if you
1.
would have watched them like like season finale back to season premiere and watched them in reverse order, I would have been a little weird, or rather than or rather in reverse, like from timestamp the end
Right.
to like if you played them backwards, like a serial killer is essentially what I'm trying to get to the point of.
No, I mean it was very bizarre because I'd watched the majority of the episodes
Right.
already. It was just sort of like a recap, but it was very bizarre to sort of see the progression of Cricket from season to
Yeah.
season, where you were just like, oh, he's not, he's a whole human being at this
Yeah.
point. And so I think sometimes I enjoyed doing that, sort of spoiling the ending a little bit for myself. I will say though, for a lot of these shows, I have really resisted or shown a lot of restraint, especially when it's something that I'm kind of committing or saying like
Yeah.
I'm going to make the time investment to figure this
Yeah.
out, which actually sort of brings me to the next 2 cartoons that I really kind of hunkered down on, that I have done a really good job of going spoiler free for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Let me can I throw one in there that I just thought
oh
of?
yeah, please.
Because it's interesting that you said that. Like what I used to do was watch an entire series run, and then when that was done, be like, oh, cool, that's how they wrapped it up. Now I want to go back and watch how all these kind of things fell into place, knowing what's coming next. And I like to do that. Nobody has the time to do that anymore. Nobody has the time to do that. Unless you're on like, you've got
hard.
summer breaks, or you just, all you have to do is schoolwork or whatever. Like nobody our age has time to do that. So yeah, I kind of do the same thing that you do. Like there are certain movies where I'm like, I'm not going to get out to see this, and I don't know if I'm going to like make it till when it comes out on rental without getting spoiled. So sometimes I'll just go to the wiki page and read it and hate myself afterwards and just being like, oh, that would have been cool to see. Or, oh, that's really not that cool at all. I didn't miss anything, you know? Because it's just kind of like, I just want to know that piece of the pop culture and then move on. Or go back and actually watch the thing. There are a few things that I, like the movie Split. There are a few things that I actually avoided spoilers, both on the internet miraculously and did not spoil myself. So I actually got to watch it and enjoyed the ending of that, which was cool. Then there are other things like
Did you think the ending was cool?
I did, yeah. I knew the ending, but I didn't know what was going on with the main plot of the story. So I knew like the framing thing and what
Okay.
happens after and how it connects to other stuff, because I had to for work, and that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit more later. But I didn't know what was going on in the main plot of the story. I wasn't spoiled with that, so that was cool. I actually got to enjoy that. The other point of this is something like Cowboy Bebop, right? When I watched that whole first series originally and I got to the end, and it's one of my favorite finales ever, I couldn't wait to go back and watch it from the beginning, which I did. And then when we revisited it for this show, I did it again. So I actually went back and I watched that series again. That's an easy one because it's short. You can kind of let it play in the background a little bit. But it's also fun to just sit and enjoy that one and let it play again. So that's kind of mine. That's one that I went back and revisited like a 4th time now.
Wow.
Yeah. It's short. It's fun.
No, I mean, if you're gonna go back and watch a series over again, Cowboy Bebop would probably be one of the ones at the top of my list.
It's like if you want
that we've watched so
watch
far.
Naruto, like you need to make like a real dedication to that because you've got like 800 episodes to watch.
Oh my god!
But something like Cowboy Bebop, when it's only like 20, 23, it's not that bad. So what was your second one?
Speaking of shows with a high episode count, I have watched recently, since airing this back in Anime April, I've watched a lot of One Piece.
Yo ho ho! He took a bite of gum gum.
Oh man, I've watched an embarrassingly large number of One Piece.
Because you had to start at the beginning. Have you laughed at me yet?
They're in the no, they're in the Grand Line right now. Like they just got into the Grand Line.
Oh, like they just kind of set sail out.
Yeah,
okay.
they have gone into it, and it's like the first island. I forget what arc it is, but it's.
Who are they like currently fighting at this point?
I'm sorry.
Who are they like currently fighting? Like who's the main kind of antagonist? Have they met other Devil Fruit users?
Yeah, they've met a couple other people there, but it's like a group of it's a group of like assassins or like people that hire other assassins. They have numbers.
Oh yeah.
And like the higher the number, the more deadly and dangerous they are. I don't know what
the band
of
Mr. Sunday. Miss Saturday.
I don't know.
No? Okay.
Oh yeah. I have, yes.
I was gonna say.
So we got a lot of those characters, and so it was just Zorro kind of fighting through a lot of them and kind of seeing through their deception. And so I've been a really big fan of that show to date. So it was great. I was actually kind of worried because I've been watching it on Hulu, and then recently Hulu was like, we are going to expire all 800 something episodes, and I guess the fan backlash of people, calling them out, saying, "What the hell are you doing? This is crazy. How dare you?" It made them revert their decision, which I know,
well,
but
I
I'd
saw
actually
that on there too. I was going through my Hulu queue, and it was like 2 episodes of Attack on Titan, 1 episode of this. You're about to expire 767 episodes of One Piece. I was just like, what the fuck?
But I mean, it was pretty crazy. But I had made the transition over at that time to watching everything on Crunchyroll, and so I was just like, you know what, Hulu, you go and do what you need to. I'll be fine.
Well, that'll come up again in discussion because between Crunchyroll and Hulu, I swap depending on the episode or the series that I'm watching. Like for DB Super, I have to go watch on Crunchyroll. For Attack on Titan, I actually watch on Hulu because there's enough of a difference in the simulcast where you have to be like a subscriber to Crunchyroll to watch Attack on Titan same day. Whereas with Hulu, you have it and it's there. So just a little distinction between the two streaming services for anime, basically. They're both good in their own right. Crunchyroll also drives me crazy as a free user because their ad placement is bonkers. I'll watch Dragon Ball Super, and like in the middle of the intro theme song, it'll just like pop up 3 ads, and then it'll come back in the middle of the theme song and pop up 3 more ads. And that aggravation alone should be worth the price of a monthly subscription, I think.
Well, because I went through the exact same thing. Can I tell you what show that was with?
Well, it definitely does it for DB Super. Does it also do it for One Piece?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, like it's so I was a free user and I was watching everything with ridiculous ad placements, and I was watching it on my iPad, and every once in a while the iPad would have a really hard time, I guess, connecting to the server to be able to pull the ad down to be able to stream it. And so sometimes as I'd be watching, the app would just go crazy.
And just like crash.
And it would just crash. It couldn't figure out what it was doing. I would sit on an ad for a minute and no loading, and I got very thoroughly frustrated. I got frustrated enough that I've been shelling out $7 a month for a paid, that, and plus I bought an Apple TV, and so you can log into Apple TV and you can watch everything on your television. And so I figured to myself, I enjoy anime, and we watch a lot on this show, so it's a business expense for me. It's a pure business
and
expense.
It's a great place to watch it. And I'll tell you, I think if you add $2 or $3 more to that through like VRV, it's a combo. They have a combo deal between Crunchyroll and Funimation. So you can actually watch the subbed and the dubbed, whatever they currently have going. And I think it's only a couple bucks more. And we are not sponsored by either of them, even though I would love to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I was watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I was binging on it. And that's one of the other that's probably the third show because I actually just recently kicked up and started watching it again.
Now, did you jump to like the crazy more current ones, or did you stick with like the original that we talked about and then watched all the way through?
Sure. I have watched all the way through. Okay. So I watched all the original. I watched all the original with the original Dio, and then I watched the entire portion of it with the Pillarmen.
I don't know anything.
And
about
then
this.
I'm now. It's batshit insane.
Like when does it hit insanity levels of like current stuff? Because I know that current things with the stands and like how crazy they all are, and that's what fans are really into. When does it hit like shoulder pad levels of insanity?
So that's in season 3.
Only season 3. That's not bad. that, I mean, like it ramps up fairly quickly to insane levels, which I kind of like. So,
well, I mean, like the whole show itself, even from like the first part of the show, I guess is called Phantom Blood, which is where there's the whole portion about them discovering the mask and the vampirism that is available, that Dio takes advantage and leverages. And then there's this whole thing called battle tendencies, which is these pillarmen, which is like where the mask came from.
Interesting.
And it's these like superhuman people that are just, I mean, they're like, this group of Nazis is attempting to harness them. Of course, Nazis. Of course. So this group of Nazis is attempting to harness the Pillarmen's power, and it backfires on them. And so a version of Jojo's ancestor at that point has to come and save the day. And then it's really in Stardust Crusaders, which is the third sort of season of everything, is where the stands come into play. So
that's where like legit Joestar or whatever comes in.
I mean, yeah, that is when Jotaro, and that's when just the giant shoulder pads. Everybody is just insane ripped. We watched the first episode of the third season for Stardust Crusaders, and because that was the one where he's trying to shoot himself, and the stand grabs the bullet like inches from his head. And I mean, the series follows a pretty standard formula. Which is a little bit predictable at points, but every once in a while I'm sort of sticking around because these stands get progressively more and more crazy.
I've read some of them, and they just like, there are some that make zero sense, but they sound like super fun to watch on screen.
Like the one that I recently watched was an 11-month-old baby that had a stand that was called Death 13, and he entered into your dreams, and you couldn't bring your stand with you technically into the dream, and so he would kill you, and whatever pain or injury you suffered in the dream translated into like the physical reality that you were in. And so it was bonkers. I mean, the ending of it was so fucking weird. Well, because the ending is that they've made this baby food because they're taking care of this baby, and the one guy who defeats from their crew who defeats Death 13 takes one of the baby's poops and mixes it into the baby's food and then feeds it to him and is like, if you ever try to do anything again, and like threatens this baby. But I mean, the baby was a killer kind of vampire thing anyway. But
they deserved it. It
was just a very weird ending to an episode. And I mean, everything into it was just, it was bizarre. It was like, it was a bizarre adventure. A little bit of that episode. Oh yeah, exactly. Damn it. It was it reminded me, Death 13, this stand, you should go check it out because it reminded me of the crazy French guy from
Pierrot Lafou.
Yeah, Pierre Lafou. And so it reminded me a little bit of him because he had this weird catchphrase where he had a clown face and he would pop up and just go, lally ho!
Nope.
And it would just over and over again. Like, just the repetition alone just made it so creepy and unnecessary. Yep. Oh, man.
Good stuff.
Those grinding of the teeth just...
That was great.
Make me uncomfortable every time.
Now, look, I've tried... It's funny because those are two of the series that I've tried to go back and watch. I've watched a fair amount of One Piece. It's one of those things where... Here comes my explanation for why I have not gotten to watch as much as I'd want to, right? One of the other reason that we started this show is because there are so many old cartoons we want to revisit and so many new cartoons or cartoons that we missed that we want to check out. And we just don't have the time to do it all. So like, this is a great excuse for us to like check out a cartoon either that we missed or that people have recommended, and it gives us a chance to talk about it. But honestly, like, that's my one little slice of like happiness where I can like do that thing and talk about it with you and our listeners out there. And then unfortunately, I kind of have to move on to the next thing. So the nature of my job kind of forces me to stay on top of current movies, current TV news. So those things kind of come first. So in other words, I have to pretty much be caught up with Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all the Netflix series, all the superhero movies that are coming out, that are currently in and coming out, plus genre stuff. Now that I'm an animation lead editor, I have to keep up with all the animation stuff. So unfortunately, I don't have time to go back and watch a lot of stuff that I would love to. Like, I'd love to sit down and watch all the Gargoyles again. I'd love to go back and revisit all the X-Men. I'd love to go back and watch Centurions because someone has to keep them alive. I'd love to go back and watch, Pirates of Dark Water. Like, all this stuff I'd love to go back and watch, but not just watch in the background while I'm doing other stuff, but actually just like sit down, relax, and enjoy it, and like laugh at how goofy it is. there's just not that time. So what I try to do is put something on in the background. Like I've tried to do it with One Piece. I managed to do it with Naruto and blitz through the whole thing. I'm starting to do it with Boruto, even though that's not quite holding my attention as much. But the tough thing is, and you guys might not know this, I don't speak Japanese. So until there's a dub that I actually enjoy, which some series I like the dub better than the sub and vice versa, even if it's on in the background, I'm going to miss a lot of stuff. And I don't like watching things that way if I can help it. I did it with Naruto because I really wanted to get through the story. I couldn't do it with One Piece. JoJo was too crazy to do it, so I haven't been able to do that. There are, however, current series that I'm also keeping up with, which I kind of teased, but we're going to leave that for another discussion. So are there any other ones before we wrap it up here tonight? Anything else out there that you went back and watched a few episodes of?
No, I mean, again, like you, it's in many cases just because of work and because of other performance obligations and travel. Every once in a while, I'm glad that we're able to do this every week and kind of hunker down and watch 1 or 2 episodes. But then if I don't love it and immediately connect with it, and I think a lot of times it's because of recommendations.
Definitely. We had people recently say to go back and give Wolverine the X-Men another shot.
Yeah, we recently had somebody on Twitter reach out and say that we should give Wolverine another shot.
And on Facebook
I'm
as well.
Watch
We had
it.
someone else on Facebook say it wasn't really fair to kind of just bookend a series and miss that whole arc in between, which is a fair point.
I mean, it is. It's a great point. We wish that we had the time to be able to do that. I'm probably going to put it on when I'm working out and just do leg day in support of all those characters and their minuscule noodle legs that they have.
Somebody's got to
that are on there. But I mean, it's a point taken. You know, we try to survey the best of the best as reviewed by other, or as noted and starred by other people. Do we get it right every time? Absolutely not. Are we brutal critics in terms of what we're doing? I don't think
we have a category called the dip where we erase cartoons from existence. And the only reason that a terrible cartoon was saved was because it had a cartoon drug in it. So are we terrible people? Absolutely. But I still think it's fair.
All right, fair enough.
I think it's fair.
I still think it's absolutely 100%
There was never an Ace Ventura animated series, by the way. There was also never an Emergency Plus 4 animated series.
Correct. There was a great live action show called Emergency.
Yeah, fantastic. Go check it out.
That Alex Capiz could talk to us all about. But there was no animated version. Alex Cazanas could talk to us all day about One Piece, which I will continue to watch. It's great.
Here's a great illustration of the time I don't have and the things that I would love to watch. I have not gone back to revisit Gundam Wing. I don't have the time. Or any of the other Gundams. It's something that I want to do.
Well, I will.
I just don't have the time.
I will say this. This is a surprise. Because I was going to message you about this earlier today, and I didn't get a chance. What
did you do?
After we watched all of the Gundam cartoons that we had and all of my frustration about this, Dave sent me in the mail a small Gundam action figure. And I put it together. I actually put it together last night.
Oh, did you really?
So yeah, I did. So it was a blast.
Which one was it? Was it the original MS-08? Was it the original guy? I can't remember.
No, it's the one with the wings.
Was it
Gundam
Gundam
Wing?
A
lot of angel wings.
Was it Gundam Wing?
I think so.
Oh, cool. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was the original little guy, the basic dude, or Gundam Wing. Okay, cool.
So I should probably... a lot of wings. So Melanie and I keep saying friend of the show, Melanie Harker, but let's be very serious. My girlfriend, Melanie Harker, and I put this together.
That's awesome.
Last night. It was a great bonding experience because she's just like, look how much fun this is. And I'm just like, Gundanium shouldn't be this easy to find. Right. And she's like, you're being ridiculous.
As she's putting 8 wings on the back of this 2-inch tall toy. I wanted to send you that because partially because of like an olive branch for the Gundam stuff. But also when I was, I don't remember what it was. I think I was sick at some point in like high school era, maybe junior high. And I remember my mom she knew I was like watching Gundam on TV. And she got me like 2 or 3 little Gundam models to put together. But like the somewhat more advanced ones. They were still Snap-ons. They weren't like the glue and stuff. But I just sat there and was like in my hospital bed. Now granted, because I was a weird little like semi-autistic savant kid, I put them all together in like an hour, and she was like, fuck, that was supposed to last you like 3 days that you're supposed to be here, so I guess I'll bring your comic books or something. But Yeah, I mean, that was just fun,
that's
and
really
I
cool.
thought it was
Yeah.
cool. So you get that
We
little.
had a blast doing it. So
That's
thank
great.
you.
Glad to hear it. So so we've built Gundams, but we haven't been able to watch Gundam, unfortunately.
It's the tragedy of this podcast.
It is, but the good thing about it is we get to share cool cartoons and terrible cartoons with each other, but also with our listeners out there. So if you guys out there are listening and we've inspired you to either check out a show because it sounds great or because it sounds terrible, let us know. Let us know what you've been watching. Let us know what we should revisit. You know, if there were 2 shows that we have to absolutely watch before we die, let us know what they are.
Yeah. And if there's 2 shows that you have watched and that you love and that we have judged very critically, let us know what those are too. Because I will seriously try to go back and I will try to watch them and we'll do another one of these in the future to be able to recap. And this could be like your way of saying I told you so, and I'll just be like, all right, I roll.
Right.
Fair
All
enough.
of you were right. We're gonna do a crazy total series retrospective in the year 2020. It's gonna be great.
Nice.
Nailed it.
Can't wait.
Excuse me. We're going to have to wait until then because unfortunately for tonight, that's going to wrap it up. So Sean, buddy, what do you have going on the next couple of weeks for our listeners out there?
Hey guys, as always, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group that is called Nox. That's NOX exclamation point. We perform for Washington Improv Theater, and you can check out showtimes and buy tickets witdc.org. And as always, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Paul Ellis. Dave, what do you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me on collider.com, nerdist.com, and davetrumbore.com. If you're interested in finding out more about the show, please take a moment to visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, it's morning with a U. You can also find us on our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page.
Yep.
It's tough without my notes in front of me. You can listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. And you can also keep the conversation going on our Facebook page. And as always, feel free to please reach out. Tell us what cartoons you've watched, what cartoons we got wrong, and what cartoons we should totally skip in the future. SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. That's going to wrap up this very special episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons, but we will be back next week, as always, with another crazy episode. Until then, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.